How's it going, guys? So as we all do know, we will be getting a Gavial altar and Yonka banner really soon. And yes, I will be calling her Yonka because it's just I'm used to it. I've been calling her that for the last 6 months. I'm just not going to be changing to Pozemka all of a sudden. So that's just what it is. And obviously I will be doing a should you pull video because I do that every time. I recommend who you should pull and to what potential, whatnot. But before we go into that today, I would like to make a little disclosure. It's that even though I'm recommending you guys to, let's say, skill mastery or module level for some operators, my operator, due to some material circumstances on my CN account, isn't really there yet. So this is more of a do as I do, not as I, or do as I say, not as I do situation, if you get what I mean. Okay, so after that, after the disclosure, we can get into the real topic of should you pull this banner and to what extent. So obviously the short answer is yes, you should pull, not because of it's limited, but because these operators are actually good. How good? We'll have to talk about that. And who better to start than our main limited operator this time around, Gavial the Invincible. So Gavial is similar to Blaze, so she's a block 3, hit 3 guard in when her skill isn't activated, and that is actually very good because Blaze was really good. But why would I use Gavial instead of Blaze? So like, what difference then? We'll have to go into that. So first of all, let's take a look at her talent. So Gavial's first talent is that she has increased 10% attack and defense, and whenever she blocks an enemy, that will further increase by another 4%. That will increase to 12% and 5% each enemy if you go to potential 3. So 12% increase attack, HP, and defense, and then 5% for every enemy she blocks. Very nice. Her second talent is that whenever she is healed, the healing effect is increased by 20%. And when her HP is below 50% line, that effect will increase to 40%. So whenever she gets healed, increase 40% heal. When you get her to potential 5 though, that will go to 25% and 45% increase HP region from healings. So as you can see, these two are actually really well designed for the class. Obviously, they already need a medic to help them to survive. So these will actually increase her survivability and damage potentials even further from the first and second talent. Really nice design. So let's take a look at her first skill. So Gavial's first skill is that at M3, she will have plus 80% attack, and whenever she attacks, she will heal herself equivalent to 40% of the damage she's dealt. So obviously, the more enemies she hits, she'll do more damage and heal herself even more. Really nice, but due to some reasons, you will probably not be using this skill. It's a simple skill, and it sounds nice on paper, but you really wouldn't rely on this because there's a 25-second cooldown to begin with, and you can't really just let her survive on her own a lot of the times, unless she's like just way overpowering the enemies, which isn't really that common for the future events and stages. So I would recommend you just stay with skill level 7 for this skill. Now, obviously the 25-second duration, 25-second cooldown makes it sound like a good balance, but still not good enough for like full-time survivability, like a mountain just regenerating his HP all the time. Like it's not something like that. So skill level 7 is fine. Now, skill 2 is a skill that I personally would have loved to M3, and I would recommend everyone to M3 because this is pretty much the main skill you will be using, but I just haven't got to that yet. I was halfway through it and then I stopped. Now, what does this do is that she will have increased attack area, she will have increased by up to 180% attack plus up to 50% defense, and whenever she is attacking an enemy that is not blocked, she will pull them towards her with a medium amount of force, which is actually really good. And why is that? Is that the skill range increase allows her to pull enemies from afar, right? And then because it is throughout the duration, which is up to 40 seconds, you can actually just control enemies that are really strong for a long period amount of time, as long that there is a wall, a high ground between them. So think of Gavial from hitting one lane like hitting, like standing in one lane and then hitting enemies from another lane. Now, because they're blocked with a high ground, enemies cannot cross the high ground, and hence she can just control them indefinitely for the 40 seconds amount of time of her skill duration, which is actually very powerful, and you will be using that strategy a lot in IS3 difficulty 15. Yes, that is a very strict situation, but you know, because I play IS3 difficulty 15, I personally love this strategy. I use this a lot, so you know, mostly recommend. But if you're not looking for it, you still have to consider that a lot of the times, because of her unique range, a lot of the times that other pull operators just can't consistently pull enemies into the hole, she can. And that's why I still think this skill 2 is very worthy of skill mastery. But you know, it's a thing I would recommend. Yeah. Skill 3 though is what I consider to be the most spectacular skill. You know, it looks the most crazy. So let me explain. So within the skill duration, she will have plus 140 attack, which sounds less than skill 2, but she will have plus 100 attack speed. Her block count will increase by 2, which is very important because at that point she'll be hitting 5 targets, and then blocking 5 of them, which will also affect her first talent, where the more enemies she blocks, she will have more increased defense and attack. That makes this skill really strong. Within the duration of the skill, also 25 seconds, you will also only take 50% of the damage. So this is not like defense or whatnot. This is just outright. After calculating the defense and the attack of the enemy and all that subtraction, you will just cut that damage in half. Now, the extra damage doesn't just disappear. It will be taken down. It will be taken from her as damage over time after the skill ends, and that will last 20 seconds. So 25 seconds of damage shrink down to 20 seconds, and then just like it looks like bleed. But as long as she kills all the enemies within the 25 seconds of this duration, which is very possible because she has high, greatly increased attack and attack speed, this is a really broken skill if your enemies aren't that strong. So yes, that's the only downside of this skill. Obviously, I will still recommend skill 3, M3, but you have to know the weakness of this skill, and that is that due to her archetype, as you can see, 451 defense isn't really the highest. Even if you have like, oh, minus 50% damage, like 50% damage gain, and then like a damage taken, and then like all the healing, she is still quite brittle. So what will happen is that because she tries to block too many enemies, that will also make her even more fragile. So if you block a lot of really strong elite enemies that can deal hard punches all at the same time, the chance of her dying is still really high. The showcase that they give it kind of doesn't show the weakness, right? And so yes, this skill is very strong, but there's a bar, like a limitation, and that limit isn't as high as you would like to think. As I thought this skill would be really nice, but she died so many times during skill 3, it was hard to watch. But still, very strong skill because the damage potential is still there. So highly recommended skill. Now, the second operator is actually the key operator what I would recommend everyone to pull this banner. Except for the 5-star. I will have to talk about the 5-star. I will talk about the 5-star. Stay tuned for the 5-star. 5-star is very important. Second 6-star operator we're getting is Pozumka. And obviously, she's the non-limited. She's just going to be in banner. So you might think, oh, well, I can just get her in the future from off banner. No. No, do not think that way. Pozumka is the key operator from this banner. Here's why. So first of all, let's look at her. She is in the same archetype as Schwartz. So which means that her module can allow her to ignore dodge, which is, as we all know, very powerful. So yes, I have an unlocked module. Personally, I would recommend her to be module level 3, but we'll go into that later. Now, let's look at her talent. So her first talent is that she can summon a typewriter for 25 seconds. Typewriter has the same skill as she carries and has its own redeployment time, which is about 40 seconds, if I recall correctly. Yes, 40 seconds. So you might think, well, it's just typewriter. We'll go into that a bit more later. Yes, typewriter is unique. It's her strength and also her weakness. We'll have to go into that later. Now, her second talent is that when typewriter attacks an enemy, it will decrease the enemy's defense by 18%, lasting 4 seconds. If the typewriter is on a tile adjacent, so top, down, left, right, one of the 4 tiles next to Poziomka, the decreased defense effect will be increased to 23%. If you get Poziomka to P5, then that will go to 20% and 25%, so a 2% increase. And then the duration will last to 5 seconds instead of 4. Yeah, not that really big of a deal if you're not going for like, oh, max your CC and whatnot. Personally, I didn't find need for this because typewriter alone in this state is already very strong. And then obviously, if you would like, if you can, try to go for module level 3 if you still have any resources left. Because as you go to level 3 module, you can actually, first of all, module level 1 is already ignored dodge. Second of all is that when she's attacking enemies right in front of her, she will have extra damage, so her attack will be increased to 105%. That's also very nice. And in general, module just gives more attack to her, which is also really critical. But also, as you go to module level 3, typewriter will have plus 70 attack, which is actually very awesome. How is that? That will depend. That is because of her skill. Okay. So Poziomka's first skill is a infinite duration skill, and the skill that I would not recommend M3. I wouldn't bother with. Yes, it's infinite duration. Don't bother with it. So skill 1 M3, you will have plus 60% attack instead of plus 50%. And then when she's attacking, there's a 40% chance to crit and to deal damage equivalent to 225% of her attack, which, you know, skill duration, infinite duration skill, we all think was really good. It's actually one of the rare cases that I wouldn't really bother with this skill because of how strong her skill 2 and 3 actually is. And if you really want to just use her, just go with those skills. Don't bother with skill 1. There are other operators that will do better, that will do like similar things as she would with like AFK playstyle or whatnot. Just not really worth it. Now, her second skill is a more interesting skill. So the passive effect, yes, there's a passive effect. When carrying this skill, typewriter's redeployment time is reduced to 50%, so only 20 seconds redeployment time, and the typewriter will last 25 seconds. Remember that? So typewriter's duration will actually outlast the cooldown. So over 50% of the time, you can have a typewriter on the field. So this is a single, this is a skill that you can charge twice, and an instant effect skill. So if you're playing in IS, this will take the effect from the chocolate pasta and the spinach can. So very good skill for that reason, just to begin with. Now, whenever you activate the skill, she will immediately attack 3 times directly in front, every time dealing 230% of her attack as physical damage. Only costing 9 SP as well. This is a very strong skill, but there is a downside. This skill can only be activated when there is enemies within her attack range. Now you might think, well, big deal, right? No, you have to consider typewriter. So whenever you try to bring out typewriter and use this skill, typewriter cannot, so you can't like use this skill with typewriter far away and know like only typewriter has enemy in typewriter's attack range, while Poziomka doesn't. That skill won't activate. The only way you can use this skill is when there are enemies within Poziomka's attack range, not typewriters. So that is the biggest, how should I say, inconvenience from this skill. But what you actually get is a very strong instant damage skill before E2. So first, and if you're playing in any of the roguelike, IS2, IS3, doesn't matter. This is a very strong skill, and I would highly recommend anyone who's interested in those modes to M3 this skill. If you're not, probably don't bother with it. So that's the only skill where I would say, you know, skill 2, skill M3 or not, it's really depending on what type of game mode you're playing the most. If you're not playing IS, don't bother with this skill. Now, the biggest, like, revelation of this class is really skill 3. Revelation? Blech, my English sucks. Either ways, my brain just froze for no reason. So, skill 3 is actually a really insane skill. So, during this duration of skill 3, she will have increased attack area for 1 tile. Not really that big of a deal. She will have minus 0.6 second attack interval. And every attack has her attack increased to 200% of her base attack. When enemy is right in front of her, that will increase to 255%. Now this skill, combined with Typewriter, can deal 140 total damage to one enemy. Obviously that is before calculating the defense and whatnot. And then you have to like count that is Typewriter plus the Poison, so it's a lot of defense stacking on, but because the Typewriter will defense enemies defense, this skill is actually still really strong. I think the ratio is like 8 point something, 80k with Pozumka herself, and then the rest from the Typewriter. So it's a combined damage of 140k. So this is where I was saying that Typewriter is the weakness, but also the strength of Pozumka. So if you want to deal damage to one single boss, let's say, you will have to be able to put down Typewriter and Pozumka in such a way that both of them can hit the boss at the same time. And a lot of the times, well, sometimes, the stage's high ground is just limiting you to, like, so that you can't do that, if you know what I mean. There are just some cases that will happen. So that is her biggest weakness. But on the other hand, if all you're dealing with is, let's say, a boss that isn't like the tankiest of all, probably the Typewriter itself can deal tons of damage. And so what in that case, your Pozumka can stay in a safe position while the boss is on the other side of the map, and you can just summon the Typewriter, because Typewriter does not take damage. It's invincible. You can just summon the Typewriter on right at the face of the boss, where it's standing probably, because that's what a lot of the boss does nowadays, and just shoot for free. And does like, what, 60k damage? It is actually insane. Yeah. Pozumka is probably the strongest operator, like in terms of damage that you will be getting out of this banner. But there is another operator that we haven't talked about yet. And I think this new operator is the most game-changing in this entire banner. And her name is Cantabile? I don't know how to pronounce her name. So because it's Italian, just ignore my pronunciation. So this is a brand new type of Vanguard. And it's really hard to explain, so I have to just tell you guys what she does first, and then I'll tell you why I think she is really strong. So first of all, before we go into her talent and her skill, you must understand that she is just like Yato. She is a quick redeploy Vanguard. That is already a strength. Now, her talent, and also because as you can see, she can hit 2 tiles ahead. This is actually really good because not only that, she can hit air units as well. So she is probably the first ground Vanguard that can hit air units with their normal attack. Yes. So as you can see, in her trait, it says that her redeployment time is decreased, and she can do range attack. In this case, range attack is she can hit not only afar but also air units. Now, her first talent is that when she isn't blocking enemies, she will have plus 14% attack speed. If you don't have P5, this will only be 12%. 12 attack speed, not percent. And when she's blocking enemies, she will have plus 14% attack. And you actually don't want that. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about why for her skill. So as you can see, she's a quicker deploy and then hits far away and then has higher attack speed. What does attack speed do? Her first skill is a passive skill, and it is that when she's deployed, she will have immediately activate skill. So it's like deploy and just use immediately. She will have plus 100% attack at M3, and whenever she hits an enemy, she will recover 1 DP. Now, if you don't understand how strong that is, let me explain. Mirto, without the help of Bagpipe, goes down to the ground and waits 9 seconds before she can generate DP. Her, Cantabile, I still can't pronounce it. 8 cost, goes down, immediately starts generating DP. Now, the skill lasts for 20 seconds at M3, only lasts 17 seconds at skill level 7. So this is a skill that I would absolutely recommend everyone to M3. Now, what this does is that you can just deploy her, generate DP, retreat. Deploy her, generate DP, retreat. This is the only operator right now that can do this. And it just completely changes the way that you will be playing. You would think about generating DP. I'm not saying she will completely replace Mirto, because I still use Mirto the most, but there are just some special cases where your DP is really tight and you can't just rely on Mirto. That's when Cantabile comes in. Yeah. Let's take a look at her skill 2. So her skill 2, obviously recommended M3 as well, is that she will have plus 40% attack, plus 50 attack speed, and she will have camouflage herself. And whenever she attacks, she will gain 1 DP. Now this is a ammo based skill, so it only has 18 ammo. So whenever you finish hitting the 18 times, you will have no more DP regen. But the good thing about this skill is that you can actually just keep her on the field, and she will just use skill, generate DP, 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 and then retreat, and then just closes the skill, right? You can do that. So compared to skill 1, where you really just use her as a normal traditional quicker deploy, this skill 2 actually allows her to just stay on the field. So both skills, that's why I recommend both skills to be M3. Now, I said a lot why she's like a game changer to me. There's no downside to her. It's not like there's no downside to her, right? There is downsides to her. And the downside is that, let's say as an example, her skill 1 increases her attack by 100%, and she has a really quick attack speed. I think her attack interval is like 1 second, and then with the increased attack speed is less than 1 second. So within the 20 seconds of skill 1, what will happen is that she will have over 1,000 attack, and that is at level 20, by the way. There's a reason I stopped at level 20 and I didn't max her out. Not because I don't have EXP. No. It's because she has, if her damage is way too high, what will happen is just that she will just kill enemy. And remember, she has to hit enemy to generate DP, and when she just kills the enemy, what's the point of having her at all? So that's, I would say, the biggest downside of her. But other than that, I would say she is the brand new, like, you remember when Mirto came out for the game? I don't know how many of you remember that. She was a game changer. She completely changed the way we played Arknights. And I think Cantabile, Jesus Christ, let's just keep calling her Cantabile. I think she is similar to that. And just because of that, I would recommend everyone to pull max potential for her. You will have a lot of decreased DP cost to deploy from 10 to 8, which is very important because you'll be deploying her a lot, and hence at the end it's more like 16 DP compared to 20 DP deploy her. Very important. And in general, I would just think that this is probably the biggest change in terms of how we play the game ever since Mirto got released, which was like almost 3 years from now. If that is not enough to convince you to pull her, to pull this banner and pull her to max potential, I don't know what will. So in general, what I would recommend for everyone is 1 Gavial, 1 Pozumko, and max pot Cantabile. And skill 2, skill 3, M3 on Gavial, skill 3, M3 on Pozumko. If you want to play IS, you do skill 2, M3 as well. And then if you're playing with, you go skill 2 and skill 1 and skill 2 M3 for Cantabile, and you want max potential. That's about it for this video. So as you guys can tell, I kind of rushed this video because we're having a little bit of, you know, Chinese New Year kind of a thing. So I've been really busy recently. That's why this video is kind of delayed and kind of rushed as well. But and I also can't be certain if I will be, if I will have the time to even stream the pulling of this banner myself. I will have to see how that goes. So probably follow my Twitch if you want to see that. The link is down below. And hopefully I will have time for that, and hopefully I will be able to make more videos this month, because there's actually something else I want to make a video about in this month. And it's not just about banners and whatnot. There's actually something else really important that I want to talk about as well, but we'll see if that can happen at all, because Chinese New Year will last till like I think end of January. I don't know. I'm just really confused right now as well. I don't know my schedule myself at this point. So we'll just see how it goes. But in the meanwhile, thank you guys for watching this video to the end. I hope you guys learned something, find this video helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.